Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most exciting part of your Friday afternoons at 3 p.m. Second Take. I am your host, the best co-host in the game, Armand Sadler. That is my co-host, Julian Kushner. And though I seem very ecstatic right now, I am extremely disappointed as my bracket is finished. Duke has just lost to Mercer, and I am fuming.
So, Armand, tell me this. How far did you have Duke going?
I unfortunately had Duke winning the national championship. And I really should have checked myself. I made such a boo-boo because they lost to Lehigh in the first round, I believe, last year. So I should have known that I couldn't trust them. But something about this year, Jabari Parker winning the Wayman Tilsden Award for being the best freshman. I just felt like this year was Duke's year, and I'm just severely disappointed right now.
I mean, I had Duke making it one more round. I had them losing to Michigan. So my bracket has been messed up, and we'll discuss those. But I do have a little bit of a funny story. For those of you who made the terrible decision of not watching the Texas game last night, Texas played Arizona State in the first round, and I mean, this one literally went down to the last second. Cam Ridley with a buzzer beater tipped it in. We won. All the Arizona State players are on the ground, so Texas is playing Michigan next round, and I made the mistake of telling one of my friends on the team, Isaiah Taylor, that I picked Michigan to win the national championship. I realized this is something I shouldn't have done because now he's not too happy with me.
Wow.
But Texas may just bust my bracket just because I made that comment. So either I'm the best motivation or I just lost a friend. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's talk a little more NCAA basketball, though. We have a lot of interesting things to discuss. First off, I would really like to talk about the fact that Ohio State lost, and 19.7% of the country somehow chose Dayton to win, and it's just crazy how people can see these things happening, and there's really no rhyme or reason to the NCAA brackets. I mean, anything can happen with as Duke losing, as we discussed, Cincinnati losing to Harvard, NC State losing. I had them going pretty far. I think NC State's a pretty solid tourney team. They lost. Western Michigan lost. I mean, I think I picked them to beat Syracuse just out of my dislike towards Syracuse. But I was hoping, upsets happen, and unfortunately, Western Michigan lost, so Syracuse would be going on.
I mean, does anyone still have a good bracket? I'm pretty sure I saw something that was like 11% of the world has this or something, or maybe less after Duke lost. I'm sure it's less. But interestingly enough, our lovely president, Barack Obama, picked both Dayton and Harvard to win those two games. So I'm unsure. Maybe those teams saw, maybe Ohio State saw that the president wasn't even on their side and they blew the game. When the president doesn't even support you, it's kind of hard to win.
Yeah, I totally would have no confidence going into a basketball game if Barack Obama didn't support me. So I get it. But on the topic of the Final Four and how my Final Four is ruined, only 3 of the 4 of my teams can make it to the Final Four now. My personal Final Four, I had Michigan State, I had Florida, Arizona, and Duke, who would ultimately be my national champion, and obviously that did not happen. I want to talk about how Wisconsin just completely obliterated American University by 40 points. I actually did predict North Dakota State to beat Oklahoma. They really didn't impress me all that much.
That was probably one of the best moments of my life. Not only did OU win, but Texas won. I mean, not only did OU lose, but Texas won. And after the game, North Dakota coach put his horns up. You gotta love it, man. OU, it sucks to suck, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's awesome for North Dakota State to pull off such an upset. It's definitely something to be proud of for them. Looking forward, teams that I see doing well, I see Pittsburgh doing well. Pittsburgh was ranked lower than Colorado, but they actually won. Who else? Let's see. I have Wichita State going semi-far, but I have them losing in the Sweet 16 actually. Although they were an undefeated team and everyone has the comments how they didn't play great teams, I think they'll still make it to the Sweet 16. They won't go further than that, but I see them being impressive.
I have Kansas making it to about the Final Four, I think, and again, I said my winner was Michigan. I have Florida making it pretty far. again, Texas could ruin my bracket, but I'd be okay losing my bracket. I've basically already lost it. Let's be real, guys. I think I've won like 2 games, so I'm not a bracketologist, nor will I ever be. I'm taking the L on this one. I'm about to angrily delete my app and then like download it again so I can still get the updates. But that's a bad thing about not printing out a bracket is I can't burn it. I just have to delete the app. But I mean, if your bracket's still alive, like, good for you, man. It's hard. This is hard.
Yeah, my bracket was done in the first game with Ohio State losing, so I really just had no confidence going into the next couple games. I'm really looking forward to what happens in the next few weeks. Who surprises me? Who takes Duke's spot in my Final Four? It's March Madness. We're all excited. We're really anxious, and I can't wait till next week. And actually today, because there are more games today actually. So I mean, who knows what'll happen? But moving on to some NBA basketball. I want to talk about the almighty Miami Heat, who have lost 6 of their last 10 games. Since ESPN likes to come up with these crazy stats for LeBron, how he's had the 25-point quarters or whatever, and the last person to do that was Kobe in the same game, 2 25-point quarters.
When they tweeted that, I screenshotted it and I tweeted it, and I was just like, they literally make up a stat that no one cares about. Do I care about the last person to have 25 points and a half was Kobe? Like, that's not even a stat. Like, it's one of those weird things. It's like they do that for LeBron all the time. The last person to score 15 points after changing their shoes after the first quarter was LeBron James. Like, that's not a stat. No one cares about that. So, ESPN, I understand you love your boy LeBron, but let him go, man. Let him fly out of the nest. Let him be.
Yes. 25 points in the quarter is definitely impressive. Definitely something to be proud of, but it's really not worth making a statistic out of. And also, I got the weirdest ESPN notification this week. Apparently, Sprite is making a limited edition soft drink called Sprite 6 Mix by LeBron James. And wow, cool. Like, he has his own drink. A lot of people get their own drinks. Nelly had an energy drink. Jay-Z has his own drink. Diddy has Ciroc. Like, cool. I really didn't need an ESPN notification about that.
Is it gonna taste better? Is it gonna make me be able to dunk? Because if it makes me dunk, I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna keep drinking it until I can dunk. But if I get no superpower from this drink, it's like a different looking can. Like, okay, LeBron, cool, you have your face on a can. I mean,
congrats. Truly congrats.
So proud of you. I'm really so proud of you, LeBron.
Moving on, I got to say some positives. I always have to talk about my boy Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is at 33 straight games with 25+, and he is only 7 away from Michael Jordan. That is a stat. That is worth talking
about. And not only that, but they are consecutive games. Michael Jordan's, I'm not sure if his were consecutive, but I know it was in a single season. So if Kevin can do this straight, I mean, how? I tweeted this. I was like, his name's Kevin Durant, but you can call him MVP. He is your MVP. Some guy who just got a Sprite can named after him, not your MVP. But someone who's scoring that well every single game, MVP, man. MVP.
100%. Based off the season Kevin Durant is having compared to LeBron James, there's no doubt in my mind he should be the MVP at the end of the season. We'll see. The NBA always somehow seems to throw it in LeBron James' direction. Hopefully that changes this year, but we'll see. We got some unfortunate news about the Brooklyn Nets. Jason Collins, who recently signed a long-term contract with them, there were some negative comments that came from one of his teammates. He does not want to release the identity of his teammate, but it's definitely not something you want to see, seeing as how he just signed with them. And you'd hope that his teammates would at least accept him, maybe not be super welcoming and comforting and be best friends, but at least just welcome him in. But negative comments are definitely not something that'll foster good chemistry between the team.
I mean, he knew that was going to come with the territory just by the position he's in, just as Michael Sam is probably expecting it as well. It's unfortunate. No one should have to deal with that. But I think that Jason Collins is handling it really well, saying he's not going to release the identity. That's respect. Hopefully that shows whoever that teammate was, like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Like, and it could have just been something that slipped out of his mouth. You never know. But, again, he didn't know how it was going to affect Jason Collins. But, I mean, I hope all that works out. Hope they get together again.
True. We got Of course, we have a multitude of NFL news coming at you. We're still in the free agency period, lots of trades, lots of signings, lots of releases. But we also have some proposed rule changes. And the Patriots are taking the helm, and they're really pushing a lot of efforts towards changing a lot of rules. And though I want to say they're complaining because they didn't win the Super Bowl this year and they're a bit angry about that, the Patriots are making some very good points. In 2012, we saw Justin Tucker's very controversial extra point that led to the Ravens defeating the Patriots in the AFC Championship. And the Patriots are proposing that the goalposts are extended upward an additional 5 feet to lessen the amount of controversial extra points that are contested. And I agree with that. I think that it's a really good idea. Extra points they can make or break a game. So if there's controversy in them, then I think that we should do whatever we can to lessen it. The Patriots and the NFL competition committee are also pushing for the line of scrimmage to be moved back to the 25-yard line. And Bill Belichick's reasoning was that extra points nowadays are virtually automatic. But it's called an extra point, and it's supposed to be earned. But if you're kicking from three yards out, then you're guaranteed to make it. There were 1,262 extra points made out of 1,267 extra points attempted. So that's 5 missed extra points. If that's the case, they might as well make touchdowns worth 7 points if extra point attempts are essentially free points and they're automatic, in my opinion. I don't know.
That's a great point, because if we're looking back on the past few NFL seasons, how many games have come down to a field goal or an extra point? Most of them, a majority of them. And that's why getting a kicker is so valuable now. And we've seen that. The draft stock of a kicker is going up. Justin Tucker, great kicker, also a Longhorn, of course. But, his was controversial. And I think extending the goalposts, why not? Does that do any harm? No. So I don't even see why that should be an issue, because no game should be left up to interpretation. Just being I think that went in. Do you think that went in? That shouldn't be it. It should be fact. That went in. You won this game. No debate. And
Yes.
So I agree with that. As far as pushing the line of scrimmage for a extra point, I see the argument. Again, I think that's kind of Bill Belichick whining a little bit, but I do get his point. I wouldn't really care, as honestly. Some kickers still miss it, and then also would this be just an NFL rule, or would they adapt it into college football? So that's where we get kind of tricky.
That's true. Yeah, to your point about 25-yard line, I don't know if it should be pushed back that far. I think that's a bit extreme. I think there will be a lot more missed extra points and teams missing out on points. And although it should be earned, I think that it shouldn't be super difficult to earn the extra points. So perhaps maybe the 15-yard line, maybe the 10, but 25 is a bit extreme. I don't know where Bill Belichick was going with that.
But also, there's a lot more missed extra points in college. And
Sure.
The reason for this is NFL kickers are professionals, okay? So I don't know why you want to hurt a professional. It's just kind of weird to me, that proposed rule. Honestly, I could let that one slide off a little bit. I get what he's saying, but I don't see the point. They could easily still make it from, it's still a chip shot, honestly. Yeah. It's still a chip shot field goal for their professional field goal kickers. They should all be making those. Most of the ones that didn't go in were blocked, wind, whatever, or bad hold, I don't know. But I don't think it's necessarily that important to push it back. Bill Belichick, you whine a lot, so.
Yeah. Some other proposed NFL rule changes we have: making the recovery of a loose ball in the field of play reviewable. I think that's good. Fumbles are always a huge controversy in NFL games. They can really turn the tide of a game. I think they should be reviewed. Allowing a player on the injury reserve to return to the roster after 6 weeks. I don't see an issue with that. Cool. Allow teams with retractable roofs to close or open their roof at halftime.
I think that's a great rule. There are, of the stadiums that do have a retractable roof, it never made sense to me why they had to leave it as it started. Because you're not God, you don't know the weather. So how are you gonna? If it starts raining, you're just gonna be okay, we're gonna make this a mud game. You can close the roof. That thing closes. So I think that's a great rule. I don't know why that was ever even an issue, but I guess because when they first made the NFL, there was no such thing as a retractable roof. So, you got to update the times, update the rules. So, good rule. I like that one.
Yes, we're now in modern times, and weather does play a part in NFL games. They can really influence whether a team is successful or not. So I think that the option to close or open a retractable roof is a great rule. I think it should be put into place next season. Hopefully it is. A couple more proposed rule changes. We have permitting coaches to challenge any official's decision except scoring plays, as those are already reviewed. I don't see an issue with that. Placing additional cameras on all boundary lines to supplement
Yes.
cameras. And
Oh my God.
That's probably the best proposed rule I've seen so far. Completely support that.
Okay, how many times do you see the commentators flipping through all these camera angles just to see, did he cross the line to get into the goal? How many times? And none of these, and they're always like, well, this is indisputable evidence. Why this has taken so long, I don't even know. Yes, put them on the boundaries. Yes, do it tomorrow. Like, that rule is passing. I'm passing it. So it's law now.
All right. Sounds good. I feel that the referees should have better access to better camera angles than the commentators should, as the referees actually have authority over what happens in the NFL game. So I completely support this one. As I said, the best proposed rule change I've seen so far. Let's do it. Moving on, though, we have some pickups here and there. We have Emmanuel Sanders going to the Denver Broncos. As you know, they just lost Eric Decker to the Jets, so that's a solid pickup. Emmanuel Sanders is a good receiver.
I told you, losing Eric Decker wouldn't be an issue. Emmanuel Sanders is a great receiver, played for the Steelers for a few years, came out of SMU, was successful at SMU. He is a good receiver. He's not as big as Eric Decker, I don't think, but he's more of a slender receiver. He can catch. He's fast. Not a problem. Broncos, they got some targets. I don't even think that's a problem.
I'm just happy for Emmanuel Sanders because he was interested in the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think he ended up in a much better place than that. So good for him on that. We have Brandon Weeden going to the Dallas Cowboys. They have Tony Romo. They just signed him to a pretty big contract. I don't see Brandon Weeden getting many plays at quarterback. He'll be there to hold the clipboard. I guess that'll help out a lot. Other things, we got James Jones to the Raiders. The Raiders making another solid pickup. James Jones is a pretty good receiver for the Green Bay Packers. So, I mean, the Raiders are adding weapons. Maybe, as Joe said a couple weeks ago, maybe the Raiders will turn it around. I still don't think they're there yet, but they're definitely making efforts to, and that's what you want to see as an NFL team. You want to see effort.
It's really funny because I was actually talking to one of my friends the other day about how the Oakland Raiders are where careers go to die because, we've talked about it, they get all the best players, they always get the best draft picks, and honestly, careers go to die there. But James Jones, great pickup. We'll see what they do with it.
Definitely. We got Devin Hester going to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm very happy that a team picked him up. Devin Hester is a threat in special teams. He's electrifying. He's one of the most electrifying returners I've ever seen play in the NFL. The Falcons did not have a great season last year, so I think that adding him to a special team, their special teams will add excitement, and maybe it'll help out.
I think I remember you saying that Devin Hester wasn't who he used to be anymore, and that the fact that they got rid of him wasn't that big of a deal. But now you're saying he's electrifying?
No. Actually, Jillian, I said he's one of the most electrifying kick returners I've ever seen, and I said that he still has his talents in him. I said as a receiver, he really didn't produce very much the past couple seasons. He hit his peak in 2009, and then he declined a lot as a receiver. But that doesn't take away from his talents as a returner. I did say that he still has value as a returner, and someone should pick him up, so I'm very happy about that. I appreciate you trying to reflect on my arguments and checking me and trying to make me better, but I know what I said, Jillian. Moving on, we got another electrifying returner going somewhere. Trindon Holliday went to the New York Giants. New York Giants have lost Justin Tuck. They're probably hurting because of that. I think that adding Trindon Holliday to their special teams will add something to their team in general. They've never really had great returners. Trenton Holiday is a great returner. He's really he dissects kickoff teams. So I see good things coming out of that move. I don't know how you feel about it, Jill.
I mean, he's a great. It can only help, honestly. He's real fast. Very underrated. We don't really talk about him much when we talk about kick returners. It's always kind of been Devin Hester, Deshaun Jackson, great kick returner as well. But that's a great pickup. And also, I don't know if you may know this, Deshaun Jackson talking about what his possible future is. As far as I'm concerned, please, Eagles, hold on to him for dear life. I like him. He's good. So please don't get rid of him.
Yes. Very interesting news coming from the Houston Texans. I saw them a couple days ago. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. I said, okay, they're picking up a backup quarterback for Matt Schaub, and they're going to stick with him. But now they're looking to trade Matt Schaub for a late-round draft pick. But they said that they're not trying to get Johnny Manziel, and they haven't expressed interest in any other quarterback. So are they putting the team in Ryan Fitzpatrick's hands? He had some successes with the Bills, but they really didn't do all that well. So I'm not entirely sure what the Texans have in mind. I don't know.
Yeah, very, very bizarre. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Texans aren't. They already said they're not getting Johnny. They're looking at Jadeveon. They're looking at those type of guys. They aren't looking at any quarterbacks. Again, there are other quarterbacks besides Johnny Manziel, which a lot of people seem to forget. There is Teddy Bridgewater. There is Blake Bortles. There are other options. Again, but they weren't going to. They haven't said anything about getting those. Maybe they have another trade lined up. I don't know who they're looking at because I don't know what other quarterback in the league is looking for a home other than Michael Vick. But I wouldn't. Not that Matt Schaub was such a great player, but you need a quarterback.
I don't support the decision of trying to trade Matt Schaub. He led them to 2 straight playoff berths. He's a veteran. I think he's a solid quarterback still. He has his injury issues, but overall, I don't see a problem with them leaving the franchise in his hands. Clearly, they don't want to go in that direction. So,
but they were also so bad last year, and when you're that bad, there's a reason they're one of the top picks in the NFL draft. Their season was that bad. So clearly, there needs to be a change. But I wouldn't get rid of your quarterback unless you have your eyes on somebody else, and they haven't made any hints to looking at anybody else. That's what's so confusing about it.
I really don't understand the move, but Texans, more power to you. Do whatever you plan to do. Another pickup for the New York Giants, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, 5 years, $39 million. He's a really exciting player. I think that's a great addition. Giants, hopefully they can turn things around from last season. They missed the playoffs.
By a lot.
By a lot, yeah. Well, let's see what the Giants do. I really don't have high hopes for them, but maybe they can prove me wrong. Tennessee Titans released longtime kicker Rob Baronas. That's unfortunate. He's really been around them a long time. I think he's still a great kicker.
No, he's an extremely successful kicker, and that's funny because we were literally just talking about, I even just said how important kickers are. And
yes.
If you have a good one, you keep it. Like, I'm pretty sure he's one of the more successful kickers. I mean, kickers have a very long career in the NFL because when you get one that can make it, you kind of keep them for a while. So I'm confused what the Titans are doing. They already got rid of Chris Johnson. Now they're getting rid of the kickers. I'm not sure where y'all are going. I guess I'll wait and see. But who I don't even know which kickers are in the draft this year that they could be picking up. Anthony Farr out of Texas. Y'all could look at him.
Perhaps. On the topic of kickers, we have the Seahawks making a great decision in re-signing kicker Steven Hauschka. He's perhaps the best kicker in the NFL right now. Completely support it. The Seahawks have made nothing but smart decisions this offseason, and I can totally see them repeating.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about the Seahawks. They're on the right track. I mean, as far as what I'm looking at in the offseason, I'm seeing Raiders making a name for themselves, Seahawks and Broncos, and it's interesting because I remember I saw you tweeted that the Seahawks are becoming the Heat of the NFL.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about that is there's been a lot of critiques about the NBA because of the fact that you can build these teams become like a trust, like they keep getting power and power, and all of a sudden they're controlling everything. And the interesting thing about that is that it's starting to happen in the NFL too,
Yes.
And we're seeing that because we've talked about the teams that have really never been relevant in our lifetimes. We named all those Florida teams and the Bills, all those types of teams. And so you're kind of seeing that trend that the same teams are going to be at the top every year. The Patriots, have there ever been a year where they haven't been good in my lifetime? I don't think so.
No.
So they're the same teams are staying at the top, and you're kind of wondering, are we becoming like the NBA in the NFL? I don't know.
Yes, the NFL is definitely moving away from a multitude of good teams to a select few of really powerful teams. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't really like how the NBA is that few set of powerful teams. I have no control over it, unfortunately. But the Seahawks and the Broncos, as you said, making great moves. Raiders, Buccaneers. So, I mean, hopefully we see some new good teams this season. One comment before we go back to the Seahawks, because we have a major debate coming up on the best corner in the game. But we have my Colts owner, Jim Irsay, unfortunately was arrested this past week for driving under the influence. Currently, he has checked himself into a treatment facility. I'm glad that he did that on his own decision. He has a history of drug issues, but the fact that he checked himself into a facility means he acknowledges that he has the issues and he wants to get the necessary help. I don't see it affecting the Colts football. Perhaps the front office will be a bit discombobulated. His daughters are taking over while he's away, so I don't really see it being too bad. It's a really unfortunate story, but hopefully he's okay. I'm sure he will be.
Yeah, I think it's great. I've always said if you have a drug problem, always check yourself in somewhere. Don't go to jail. Jail doesn't rehab you. So unfortunate that this happened, but hopefully he gets the necessary help. He has had a history of abusing prescription drugs. So, again, it won't impact the Colts at all. As far as the only thing that we can look towards that may hurt is the draft. But I'm not sure how much say he even has in the draft. So if his daughters are taking over, I'm sure they'll be in communication with him about some decisions. But right now, there's always there is life outside of football, and you do have to take care of yourself before you play the game.
100%. Now back to the Seahawks. The Seahawks making another power move in. They're very, very close to signing Jared Allen, who was just recently released from the Vikings. A very unfortunate release, but a huge gain for the Seahawks. The Seahawks already have that vicious pass rush on top of their fierce linebackers and their ball hawk corners and safeties. So the top-rated defense in the NFL is just getting better and better with every move they make. This was an amazing move for them.
Jared Allen would be a money move. I mean, we've already discussed they have a great defense. And now, why don't we just slide into this debate? I asked Armand the other day, I said, everybody's talking about who's the best corner of the game. Richard Sherman says it's him. So let's see, is Richard Sherman really the best corner in the game? I am extremely undecisive on the issue, but I'm going to let Armand go first about it, and I'll say everything I found.
Okay, well, as you saw last week, we talked about Richard Sherman's attitude and the fact that he's really starting to make people dislike him. And despite my comments about his attitude, I feel Richard Sherman makes a valid argument and is correct in saying that he is the best cornerback in the NFL. Stats-wise, he's a two-time All-Pro cornerback, which means he's among the top 22 players in the NFL, and that's been for 2 seasons. He's a Pro Bowler. He's a Super Bowl winner. In his 3 NFL seasons, he has 20 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, and 141 tackles. And I feel that Richard Sherman is also the best cornerback in the game because people take him seriously when he says that. If a cornerback like Joe Hayden of the Cleveland Browns made the same statement, no one would take him seriously because it's not a valid argument. He hasn't proved himself to be among the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Receivers are going to be gunning for Richard Sherman next year for the simple fact that he's correct. His statistics from the last 3 seasons are nearly unparalleled. And when you're the best, everyone guns for you. And as we've said on this show for several times, every receiver is going to be gunning for Richard Sherman. He has struck fear into quarterbacks. Colin Kaepernick threw to his side twice in the NFC Championship game. That means Richard Sherman completely took away an entire side of the offense and took away a receiver, which is major. Richard Sherman studies quarterbacks, receivers, and their tendencies. He dissects offenses, and he is the definition of a ball hawk. And in 3 seasons, he's accomplished what some corners probably will never accomplish in 10 seasons. So that's why I believe he's the best.
Man, when I say I'm undecisive, I am so indecisive about this. I currently have 5 tabs of different players open. I was looking at Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman, Charles Tillman, Brandon Flowers, and Champ Bailey. And it's hard. See, what I'm looking at, when I'm looking at who is the best corner in the game, I'm looking at 3 stats in particular. I'm looking at the amount of interceptions they have, the forced fumbles, and the combined tackles. The thing about Richard Sherman is, career-wise, these guys are better than him. They've been in the game a lot longer. I mean, Charles Tillman, a veteran, been there since 2003. You know, all these guys have a lot more experience. Don't even get me started on Champ Bailey, been there since 1999. So their stats are going to be a lot higher than his, obviously. So I'm trying to focus on just last season, but the unfortunate thing about that was that out of all the players I listed, the only ones who played the complete season last year was Richard Sherman and Darrelle Revis. So I guess that's who it's come down to. And I'm looking at last season. Richard Sherman had 48 total tackles. He had 8 interceptions, but 0 forced fumbles. And then I'm looking at Darrelle Revis. He had 50 combined tackles, 0 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. So I literally do not know who to pick. It's definitely between Richard Sherman and Darrelle Revis. It's hard. This is hard. I can't decide. So I don't know. Richard Sherman really did have a great season last year. He did have those 8 interceptions are really impressive. He did not have as many tackles as Darrelle Revis did, but Darrelle Revis was also not in the limelight as much. And I think that's another reason we pick Richard Sherman is Richard Sherman did win the Super Bowl. But I can't decide. I mean, Charles Tillman only played 8 games last year, but in those 8 games he did have 3 interceptions and 41 tackles and 3 forced fumbles. So you can't even skip over him. Brandon Flowers only played 13 games last year as well. He had 1 interception, 0 forced fumbles, but 68 tackles. And then Champ Bailey, unfortunately, only played 5 games last year. But in those 5 games, he had 14 total tackles, but 0 forced fumbles and 0 interceptions. This is comparing greatness and greatness. I can't do it. I can't.
It's a really hard argument to make. There's no way to determine who the best cornerback in the game is. There's no way to say who has better abilities, statistics. Because is interceptions good or are forced fumbles good? Which is more valuable to produce as a quarterback?
It's hard. I've never been so stumped, and I'm a very opinionated person, which I've made so clear on this show. Obviously. And it's at this point where I can't do this. I'm comparing greatness with greatness, and if the thing that really stood out to me is that even though the other players that I mentioned, like Charles Tillman, did not play as many games, in his 8 games, he was insanely successful. He had 41 combined tackles in 8 games, and that's only a few shy of the 48 that Richard Sherman had in the entire season. So it's hard for what I'm comparing. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I weigh interceptions over forced fumbles for a cornerback. When you think cornerback, you're thinking the guy covering the receiver. So if you're stealing the ball out of the receiver, that's more important than you forcing a fumble if you're at the line or whatever. Tackles are extremely important, and I think that's a stat that everybody needs to focus on. I can't decide. I think the top 3, in no particular order, Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman, and Charles Tillman. Again, I can't really judge Champ Bailey much off of his 5 games last season. I think next season will show a lot. Maybe then we can decide. But you're looking at some of the greatest careers ever. I mean, you gotta hats off to Charles Tillman. He has 849 career tackles. That is insane. 36 career interceptions. You're looking at Brandon Flowers, 374 career tackles, 17 interceptions. Champ Bailey, 909 career tackles and 52 career interceptions. Darrelle Revis with 21 career interceptions, 344 total tackles. These guys are too good. I can't decide. I gave you my top 3, and that's the best I can do.
Personally, I would love to have any one of those cornerbacks on my team, but if I had to make a decision, I had to pick one, it would be Richard Sherman. I like his leadership. I like his attitude. If Richard Sherman is hype, then the other 10 players on the defense are hype, and they're excited, and they're playing fierce, and that's what I want. I want a player who can get everyone else riled up and get everyone else playing at the elite level that Richard Sherman plays at, and I think that that's what he brings to the Seahawks. He makes their defense just energetic and hype and crazy, and that's what I want in defense. I want crazy people who are trying to take people's heads off, snag balls out of the air, and score defensive touchdowns every time the ball is up.
See, the thing that Richard Sherman does have is his youth. You know, that's always good. He's going to have a longer career because he's younger. Again, I can't pick one of them. I can only say they're all really great, and I would be lucky to have any of them. But something that I would find interesting is to talk to an NFL receiver and see who they are the most scared to go against. You know, who is the most intimidating to go against? Again, I don't know any NFL receivers, so I can't personally ask them. Otherwise, I think it would be really cool. I might go and try to talk to some guys here and see who they'd be most scared to play against, because maybe that could help me make my decision. Right now, I can't. You know, going into this debate, I thought I was going to pick Richard Sherman for sure. And then I surprised myself. I looked at the stats, and the numbers don't lie. We know this, but there's also more to it. There's some stuff that stats don't show, just as you said, like who's the leader of the team. But looking at the stats, it's crazy. I think a lot of these guys are extremely underappreciated. Not enough focus on some of these guys because they're clearly incredible, and there's not even the limelight's on them. So. I can't tell you. I don't even know.
I think that next year is really going to show a lot about Darrelle Revis, because throughout his entire career, he hasn't been on a good NFL team. He's been on the Jets and the Buccaneers, and they're not good. And although he's in the NFL, and I'm sure he's playing to his best ability every time he's on the field, you really don't feel influenced to play 100% and give 100% of your effort when your team isn't winning.
Exactly.
So now that he's on a successful team in the New England Patriots and Richard Sherman is already on the successful Seahawks, I think this year will really show who the better quarterback is in terms of their statistics, how they play, their energy, their commitment, and just how much effort they give for every play. So I think next year, we need to have this debate on Second Take again and look at Darrelle Revis' stats on the Patriots and Richard Sherman's 2014 stats on the Seahawks and see what happens.
And don't sleep on the other people I brought up. Champ Bailey, where is he going to be? There's still more. There's still other people. Again, we were just discussing the greatest players, so they'll all be Hall of Famers. Don't y'all worry. We're talking about the greatest and the greatest. So it's kind of like our Kobe and LeBron debate. They're both the greatest players, but it's hard to pick a corner.
Yep. With that, I think it's time that we wrap up. I really want to thank you guys for joining us on Second Take again. It is March Madness, so we will have plenty of college basketball to talk about. I'm sure there will be a lot more NFL news to discuss. Keep joining us. We're getting close to our 2-month anniversary. It's almost like we're dating. I don't know.
I don't think we're dating. So on that note, thank you all so much for tuning in. We're going to see you next week. We got college basketball. All the college basketball you'll ever need. Let's see, maybe my bracket will make it. I don't think so, but let's just see.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.